And maybe that's just because I was like super paranoid because I had been holding that forever, and maybe that's because I was super paranoid from my personal experience. Um, because I also was 18 when I joined. So I didn't know anything about the world.
That's a baby.
Yeah, I was baby.
Yeah, I mean, I was 19, huge
Yeah,
difference.
you were also baby.
Welcome to the Epic Kate podcast. It means the world to me to have these conversations and just build compassion, grow in perspective, and curiosity. Just letting the world be expanded by hearing other people's stories, hearing what they've gone through, and taking something from it. I have conversations with all kinds of awesome people, and in this episode, I'm talking about something very near and dear to my heart, which is Covenant Players Experiences. This is an organization, a ministry that Suze and I were both in at the same time. And all of my Covenant player conversations that I've had on this channel are really near and dear to my heart. But it's especially neat when I can talk to people that I actually knew and toured with. And Morton and I were Suze's unit leaders in Germany, and Austria and Switzerland, I believe, was the touring area. We didn't get too much into our touring together experience, but I was so thankful to hear their perspective and their just authentic heart and forgiveness and openness. And it should not surprise me at this point just how many queer non-binary people have come out of Covenant players. There was a lot of repression going on, a lot of having to hide who you were. But I will stop rambling and we can get into the conversation. Oh my gosh! It is so surreal to be in a video chat with these Suze
These Suze, that's
Quackenbush.
me.
Like, we haven't talked since, like, we toured together in Covenant Players 10 billion years ago.
Yeah. What was what, 2011, I think?
And, like, not to my knowledge that, like, anything terrible happened. It's just, in Covenant Players, once you're done touring with people, you just kind of, like,
Yeah.
you're in the zone of the next step.
Hmm. Yeah, no, nothing terrible happened like on our tour together. I just kind of left in a I broke my commitment, which, is the worst thing you can do because I was having a severe mental health crisis after 4 years of, oppressive Christianity. Um, so, so it was nothing like bad that happened like with really anybody that I toured with or
Mm,
was like, close to. It was mostly the people in charge,
mm.
which is
So,
usually how that goes.
so you said it was a mental health crisis brought on by oppressive Christianity. What did that look like?
I mean, you were there, so you know how like crazy it could be. How like, some animals were more equal to than others in like the hierarchy. Not so much when we were in Europe.
No.
No, but in the US, if you were part of the family, then you were, could do absolutely no wrong. Like, and, or if you've been there forever, like, you know, and me being me, blunt and autistic and from New York, and just like, okay, no, we're not having it. Got into it with one of the high leaders who then had it out for me the rest of the time. Is
Mm.
Nancy, by the way.
But like was also the queerness a part of that
Oh
repressing
yeah.
your
Oh,
gayness and your non-binariness?
oh yeah, because I'd been repressing that for my whole life because I grew up in a small, tiny, pretty conservative, pretty red town.
Mm,
Even though it wasn't upstate New York, it was still like pretty rednecky. Like we would go by and people would have like Confederate flags like in their houses and stuff. And my family and my friends and I would always be like, "Hey, you're a little off there, buddy. Little like this is the North, my dude. We won." Um so but it was really kind of like the era of conservatism and I was already not to be like, oh, woe is me after school special about it, but I was already kind of a weird little nerd when I was in school. So to add gay weird little nerd, I would have just been even more made fun of and more, and now I'm 36 dang years old. Now you make fun of me like, okay, oh no. Oh, I'm weird and gay. Okay, cool. But
Was it
when you're 15, that is like the worst thing somebody could call you.
was it something that you acknowledged to yourself, or was it something that even to yourself you pushed down?
Oh, even to myself, it was like, no, can't have those thoughts. Those are bad thoughts. We can't think that this girl is pretty and not a in a non-aesthetic way. Nope, nope. Um,
Dude, you just made me think of Book of Mormon.
yeah,
Turn it off like a
like a
light
light bulb.
switch.
That was exactly it. That was exactly it. And especially when like I was like making correlations like in high school in like English class and being like, oh, that character in this book we're reading in school is a little fruity. And I like was writing a paper about it and telling my parents and my mom's like, you're just obsessed with gay people. And I was like, okay, well, can't tell anybody about these feelings that I may or may not be having. Um, and then I didn't come out until I was like 25. And even then, my parents were like, oh, well, but it's been like over a decade and now they're cool with it, you know?
How old were you when you finished or left Covenant Players?
I left in 2012. Math is hard.
It is hard.
So
Ugh.
I was 24. So I came out like I kind of fully realized it on my last tour and I was like, "Oh." Um and actually came out to my mom on the road and to the people I was touring with because I knew them to be cool. I knew them to be allies.
Mm.
Um, it was Shane and Charlie. So
Oh.
like I knew like of all of the people that wouldn't like rat me out or be weird about it, like they'd be cool, right? So
Mm.
they were cool about it. Um, because this was right in the height of my Sherlock fandom. So I was like, hey guys, I like girls. And she was like, ah, that explains your obsession with Irene Adler. And I'm like, you get it. You get it. But yeah, I was like 24, 25 when I came out. And like the coming out part of it wasn't really a big like deciding factor in not going back. It was a factor, but it wasn't like the reason that everybody thought it was. Um, it was more of like I have been doing this for the entirety of my life since I came of age because I joined right after I turned 18. And so like I'd been doing this for then my whole adult life and I'm like I need to like go home. I need to reset. I need to like find myself outside of this organization and outside of my family unit and outside of everything.
Right. It becomes such an all-encompassing identity. It's I
Yeah.
felt the same way. I'm like, I needed to have kids as a part of my, excuse to find a different me that wasn't
Yeah.
just completely wrapped up in, I mean, I always wanted to be a mom, so it wasn't the
Right,
only
right,
thing. But
right. So that wasn't some like weird like, like comp het like have to have kids because I know you. I've known you for a long time. You've always wanted to like be a parent and have kids. So that wasn't like a weird thing. Like if I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna leave and have kids, that would be weird.
yeah. Yeah. You never gave the mothering vibe.
No, no. I enjoy other people's children because then I can give them back. Um, like I do enjoy working with the children in the theater because they're if you think little kids are out of pocket normally, you get a little theater kid, you get like a 10-year-old theater kid. They are so crazy. It's great.
But I want to pull back
Yes, yes, they'll just pull
to
back. Yes.
the thing. I want to have these conversations. It's such a beautiful intersection of being a ally, being a support, being a solidarity for LGBTQ, and also the intersection of the organization ministry that we spent so many years of our lives.
Mm.
And like, what do we want to say to the other queer former Covenant players out there watching this? And what part of your, like, when I asked if you would want to be on this podcast, what were some things that you were like, oh, I really want to talk about this specifically?
Um, well, because like in the relationship of like Covenant players and the queer community, it was such a disconnect because you had so many people from so many walks of life and so many like areas of religion, mostly Christianity, that like there were some folks that were like, okay, cool, whatever, you're gay, whatever. And there were some folks that were like, no, absolutely not. Why are you even here? Sin. And then there was kind of like the middle of, hate the sin, love the sinner, which is a whole nother conversation of problematic. Yeah, no, we don't. It's a whole nother problematic conversation. Um, and so like there were folks that had been hurt and burned by like, I know there were a couple people that had been married and then their partners came out as gay and left them, and that was like a wound. So I don't think they were necessarily homophobic or anti-gay. They just didn't have the tools to heal that wound because Covenant Players does not give you the tools to be a person, basically. It's just like, oh well, God will provide. It's like, no, that's cool and all, but also maybe we should do something. Um, and I think that there were a lot more of us than people knew because it was such an oppressive environment, and like there were people that are just like there were a couple folks that I had toured with and that I had like interacted with outside of tour that I considered friends that were like, yeah, if a gay people person ever joined, I would try to get them kicked out or I would leave. And it's like, why do you care, my guy? Because we were staying in people's homes and like a lot of the time, because I toured mostly in the East and the Northeast. So like we say what got a lot of gay people, and it was great. And you ever like drink a martini and watch Barbarella at 2 a.m. with 250-year-old gay dudes? Because I have, it was awesome. But like I think that was in New York, New York City, because of course it was. But like to get all of these young Christian people that have been going to the church their whole life in like different churches and then say, okay, we don't have a code of conduct or a doctrine in Covenant Players other than like, you know, don't dress provocatively and don't touch each other. Uh, which like I feel like the don't touching each other is a good rule to have anywhere. Like, you know, but like it was very much in not a like don't beat each other up, but in a leave room for Jesus kind of way, which is weird. You get all of these people and you put them in basically a pressure cooker. And then you get surprised when people of different worldviews and even different review views of what is technically the same religion
Mm,
come to an impasse,
mm,
you know? And then if you add like the gayness in there, you have these people who are, you know, like me, like so far in the closet, we're kicking it with Aslan. Like, say that for you, who are afraid because the whole thing was building relationships and like, being friends, right? But you really couldn't trust anybody,
mm.
because you did like unless you fully 100% knew for a fact that you weren't gonna get ratted out to leadership, and then it'd be a whole big thing. And maybe that's just because I was like super paranoid because I had been holding that forever, and maybe that's because I was super paranoid from my personal experience. Um, because I also was 18 when I joined. So I didn't know anything about the world.
That's a baby.
Yeah, I was baby.
Yeah, I mean, I was 19, huge
Yeah,
difference.
you were also baby. And what wasn't Morton also like
He was, yeah,
19, 19 or
19
20
when
when he
he, I want to
joined?
say he was 19 when he joined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all like toured together pretty soon after that. So we were like
Yeah.
baby. We were all like what, 22? I think I turned 23. No, I turned like 22 or 23 when we all toured together.
Hopefully it didn't traumatize you too much touring with us that where we were basically newlyweds.
No, nah. I actually have really great memories of our tour together.
Aw.
And hanging out in Austria and seeing all, doing the whole Sound of Music thing at one
Yeah.
time. We
On
went
your
to the
birthday, we took you to a crypt.
Yes, that was cool.
Yeah.
I was very into the crypt because I was, the goth GF.
Oh my
The
gosh.
meme. I was the little goth one.
Talking to you, it's like all coming back, like
Yeah.
watching shows together and you being like, that's the bad guy.
Yeah. It's like when it's like super obvious,
Yes.
like watching Marvel and be like,
I didn't even know what a podcast was really. I was like vague idea of people talking and like 20
Mm.
times a day you'd be like, this conversation is so fun. We should totally start a podcast.
Yes, yes, because that was when podcasts were like just becoming a thing, and now they are a thing.
Everywhere.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Um,
Finally I did.
Yay. Woo. Yeah.
Woo.
But like the intersectionality in Covenant Players was really weird because also a thing that I noticed that it was predominantly white people
Yeah, yeah.
with notable few exceptions. But in my time, because I was in for 5 years, and there were only like four, I think, three or four folks that I had interacted with. Um, Obviously, and the when South America was a thing and South Africa was a thing, they had, more BIPOC folks because they are not majority white places. But in Europe and the US, there was only like three or four folks that didn't, look like look like me, which I thought was also weird.
How much did you feel like you had to be wearing a mask and had to be just playing the role of the good covenant player?
Oh, all 24/7 all the time
Mm,
because like you add in the fact that I never really was super religious. So I had to play that part, especially touring in the deep south,
Mm.
because that was a fun time. Yeah. Um, I had to like basically everything about me I had to sort of justify because I've had short hair for a really long time. They're like, "Well, why is your hair short?" I'm like, "Because I wanted short hair." And then they do like, "Well, a woman's hair is her glory." I'm like, "Okay, well then I'm not glorious." Because my thing, like, I am super blunt and sarcastic, right? I'm a New York Jew. We just kind of come that way. That's sort of the default setting. So I had to sort of be like, oh yeah, haha, and play it off. And I had to basically learn how to be a person in other people's homes because until that point, I just like lived at my house with my parents where I could basically do what I wanted. I didn't have to like ask to like make food. I didn't have to like ask to do so. Like I could just like live. So there was that. So, and the fact that I am mildly neurodivergent, so, you know, social interaction, like I have to think about every social interaction of like process what people are saying to see like, okay, do they mean it? Is it a joke? What's happening? What's going on? Um, so the mask was like fully on. It was like full on like man in the iron mask at
Mm.
times because I just had to be on all the time and you couldn't complain about it because the consensus from people who'd been in a long time and the official leadership were like, well, this is what you signed up for. Sorry, kid. And it's like, can you give me some support here? I thought we were supposed to like love and support each other and do all of the things that Jesus said, and you are doing zero of that, my guy.
So what did it all compound to and adding up to your psych building up in your psyche to lead you to like I can't go back?
So I had been in touring in Europe for 2 years, and then I finally got home, and it was just kind of like a release valve. And I was just like, well, because I had already, when I was in Europe, I had already talked about like doing my last um tours and then um going home. So what had happened was is that there were several of us coming from Europe to do our stuff in the US. So we all flew and we flew into LA to do the training, and so I didn't even get to see my folks in between.
Mm.
So did the training, went out on the road, and then I finally went home for winter break times. And it was just like I can't do this anymore. I can't like I am tired of sleeping on couches. I am tired of living out of this suitcase. I am tired. I'm just so tired of all of this. I've had all of these great experiences. I've seen the country. I've seen some of Europe. I've made these great friends, but I need to like be a grown up and like go to school, get a job, like do whatever, right? Like it was like a break. Like I just like couldn't do it anymore.
Mm.
And the fact that I had realized and come out to some people as queer had no bearing on that. Like I just like it was just kind of like a like oh I just freaking can't. Um
Like you had the realization of, wait, I don't have to go back. No one's holding a gun to my head.
right, right. And then I had like this pallor of like broken commitment, and it's like at every turn Covenant Players has broken its commitments to everybody, like especially like this was obviously long after I had gone, but the way that Covenant Players handled um the pandemic and the
I don't really know
26.
too much about that other than the fact that a lot of people just were stuck finding jobs and just figuring out how to survive and reading plays
Yeah.
with each other over Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is, though, I understand the Counter Players is a nonprofit. Like, I get that. But to just kind of like leave people to be like, whoop, well, you're on your own, kid, and not offer any, and I'm not talking about like monetary compensation because I know they don't have the money. Like, I know that. But there's more of like, hey, we're here to support you. We're here to like, because from what I have heard from the people who were still in at that point, and then they never went back. And Common Players like basically collectively made Pikachu's face of how everybody, yeah, like
What did
you
you
know,
think? People need to eat. Hello.
yeah. And for, a company who's based on, like you reap what you sow and put good in the world and it will come back to you and all of that, to not do that and then be surprised
Mm.
when it hits the fan, like,
So you still
um
had some contact with some of the people that were.
I do still have some contact with folks. Not that we're like texting every day or being BFFs, but like we're friends on Facebook and like we'll sometimes comment on each other's things and like do a heart react or whatever. Because I'm friends with you. I'm friends with David, Dave Graham, who we love.
Yeah.
Um, um, she recently left, but I'm friends with Denise, who actually lives like really close to me now.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I still am in contact with a few people um who are like super cool and who are, from what they have been posting and from what they have been saying um in recent years, are like, ally. So that's really cool and refreshing to see,
Mm.
because being in Covenant Players for as long as I was and as young as I was, it was just kind of like a bombardment and a jumble of like, you know, happy sunshine, we're doing the Lord's work, and then, cloak and dagger craziness behind the scenes.
So what what's been your healing journey like from finishing to like, oh gosh, I need to talk to somebody about this or
Well, it's been a long time, and I have really like grown up over that time. Like I've really kind of be basically become a person, you know? Um, and like there are some aspects of who I am and my personality that have always been there, you know? But now I am, old enough to be like, you know what? I don't care what people think. I don't care if this comes back on me. I'm grown. I can do what I want. Um, so like I think I've always needed to get this out and like talk to people about it, but there never was an avenue for that. Because like talking to people who are still in, they're just gonna toe the party line, you know.
yeah.
Um, a lot of the people who had left, whether it be on good or bad terms, um, wouldn't, I'm not gonna say they wouldn't be able to have a productive conversation, but a thing that I have noticed a lot with folks like me who joined real young and got out when they were still real young just felt really burned and angry and vindictive, which is kind of par for the course when you're in your early 20s. Like that's, how that works. But you can be like, oh, let's talk about this and let's like heal about this. because there would be no healing. There would just be, anger.
Yeah.
Which anger is a valid emotion. Like you take that anger, but also we need to point that in a productive direction.
Wow.
Like
I hadn't
I
thought
live,
about that. That is so true that there really isn't anyone to really talk to about it when you're in that position. That
no,
sucks.
yeah, yeah. And like the just the fact that there in the recent years, I mean, not that there was a great amount of care given to us, that 10, 15 years ago when we were in, but I think that has fallen to the wayside because let's be real, the company is dying. Like
Yeah.
every so often I will look to see like who's still in it, who's still around, and it's just really like I think I counted it up as like 20 people now
Mm. There's
and
like a
across the
team in
world.
Germany. There's like a team in legacy players in the US.
Yeah, there's like three people in Germany. There's like I think four in the UK, and
And
then
I don't think
like
any UK people are full time. I think that they all have to have jobs, of course.
yeah, yeah. And I don't think that the people in Germany are either.
Mhm. It's so weird to see for how bustling it was. But it was so annoying we were in and it felt bustling to us and people were constantly moaning the good old days when it was so many more people. It was like, "Oh, can we get off of the past? Can we just like be in the now?"
They can't. They absolutely can't.
Larry
Because
Hauser was one of the good ones.
yeah,
He was one of the
Larry,
ones who were like, "I appreciate the young people of now."
yeah, Larry, Denise, um, Barton Pam.
Hmm. That was
But
awesome. Pam was an
yeah,
awesome lady.
she was so lovely and wonderful. Um, but like, there were very few of the old guard that were like, we appreciate you, like we have these up and coming young people, which is just kind of like how that happens in society as a whole, right? Like, not to be like generational divide about it, but like there always is some like stratification of, like, you kids and your hippity hop music. Yeah, it's like, okay, calm down. You know?
So, what do you regret about your time in either like what you did or
Um,
whatever?
I really regret not speaking up more. I really regret um going with the flow at times. Um, I do regret like because a lot of the times it wasn't necessarily leadership, but it was when we were doing the big trainings and like, directors would just be completely unhinged. Like I really regret going with the flow a lot at times. And just kind of like letting people um because they had been in longer or were more established or, the powers that be like them better, just letting them sort of have their way and walk over me.
The absolute divas.
Yep. Um, like,
I know exactly like I was just so determined to be impressed to impress
yeah,
to just be that person that stage manager that would run across and get that stool and bring it back before they
yeah.
even noticed and I don't think I did permanent damage to my back but I might have done like
I mean, I feel like between that and sleeping on everybody's janky couch,
oh
our our backs will never be the same. Um, Yeah, and I think that was part of sort of the fabric and the engineering of the company as a whole because you get these bright-eyed and bushy-tailed teenagers who like have big, golden retriever puppy energy and want to impress the adults. And that is a really, really great archetype of person to manipulate.
Ooh.
You know, like you get this kid who's like, I want to impress you and I want to be good and I want to be so great and I want my gold star. If you are not a good and honest person that sees that for what it is, it's like, okay, you are baby, you are new, you want to be good. Like you just let them do it, pat them on the head and say,
And
good
then
job.
say, okay, now rest. You're not allowed to do any more running around for anyone. You're going to just sit in the corner and just do what you want to do for half an hour.
Yeah, yeah. But no, they
Wouldn't that
they
have been so nice if we had gotten a half an hour of peace during those
yeah.
crazy, stupid summers?
Oh my God, yeah. Like
To breathe, a half an hour to breathe.
it was my last summer and I was like already on the way out and I was just having like a full mentee bee.
Oh,
Um and like we were having like an open forum thing and I was like just like in tears and sobbing. Some people did come and comfort me and I will be very grateful to them. None of them were anybody on the board or in leadership.
mm.
Um, and one of them who was like the one of the in charge people was like, okay, you're gonna go to the quiet room now. And like you are no, and I'm like, oh well, I have to like send up for dishes and cooking. And she's like, nope, we'll take care of it. You go sit. And that was the one time that had ever happened because I had a full face melting, like uncontrollable mental break in front of a room of 80 people.
You know, a similar thing happened to me in California when I was gonna be directing in a play and and a singlet all in the same night. And I was
Jesus
just like, and I was like,
Christ. Did I
I
say
can't
that? I
do
don't know.
that.
That's so much. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's
They
so
moved the
much.
singlet to another time, thank goodness. So then I was just directing and performing. Editing Kate here. Singlet in Covenant Players lingo was a one-person play, and there usually were about one or two. I do believe this specific play was maybe 2.5 pages, all by myself on the stage. Yeah. The thing that
Yeah.
I regret is that I was a person that towed the party line so much. But of course, you're indoctrinated, you only know what you know, and
Yeah.
you do what you do. But I was definitely somebody that was like, not all Christians, not all covenant players. You may
Yeah.
have had a bad experience, but it still does means that good stuff has happened. And like, yes, good stuff did happen, but I invalidated so many experiences. And the other thing, I'm pretty sure I sent you a message about this, but I don't remember. Maybe I didn't. But I was somebody that was homophobic, and I didn't know it because I didn't know you were gay. Because I was like, nobody's gay. This is a Christian ministry. but gayness came up, and I showed you the verses in the Bible where it says that it's wrong.
I don't even remember that honestly. But like I believe that that happened, but like you also like with your background, you grew up in a pretty conservative like it, household. Also, we were children.
Yeah.
We were like 22, we were babies. And so there's no like bad blood there, and there's no like because I do remember us arguing about that. Um, but I think I mean, we didn't like argue about a lot, but like we just kind of did because I was ready to throw hands at any juncture because I was 22. Um, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
and
I so regret how
yeah,
long it took me to change, and but I did eventually, and some people don't. Some people are still on their way, and
yeah. And I think as a society we need to like honor that journey because like you are out here doing the work. You are out here spreading your personal story and what happened with you to say, hey, change is possible, but we have to be allies. And you are, and I applaud this, that you are doing the work. So it is possible. But a lot of people in the queer community and the leftist community are like, oh, you were homophobic once and you made this tweet when you were text notes 13, and so you're a bad person. I don't care that you're 35 now. And it's like I I am very glad that the internet didn't happen really until I was like in my 20s because whoo, it's like if we are going to hold everyone to task of the stupid things that they said in their youth, which was really just probably parroting the adults around them. Like when people are like that, I'm like, okay, do you want me to hold everything you said when you were 13 against you? Because we could do that. You're not gonna like it. So it is possible to do that work. And I think we need to honor the people to say, hey, back in the day, I had these views that are not aligned with who I am now. I had these views, but then all of these things happened. I did the work within myself, and now I apologize and I am sorry for these views that I held in my youth, but now I am doing the work to maybe undo some of the harm that I did. And that is the thing, and that is what you are doing. And that's what like a lot of people are doing. But we are so blinded by like humans in general, but Americans specifically have a very black and white view of what the world should be.
yeah.
And that's kind of what got us into this mess because we have a very black and white view of like, oh, you said this bad thing when you were 19. Well, you're still bad even though it's been nearly 20 years. You
Yeah.
know, like
So I want to pivot to what would you want to say to people watching this, for other former Covenant players, maybe people you traveled with? Um,
um I would like to say that I did have very, very good experiences on the ministry. I had some not so great experiences, but I had some very good experiences. And for folks I traveled with or folks I didn't, if you are questioning anything about yourself, if you think you may be some flavor of fruity, that is okay. Because, it's the whole thing of like, God loves all the little children. It doesn't say God loves all the little children except for the fruity ones, you know? And also I would encourage people to I just encourage people to look into yourself. If you are reconciling things like we are of like what happened during your time in the ministry and maybe like being like, maybe this whole God thing isn't what I meant. If you were questioning anything about your time or like what happened or anything, that is okay. Like American Christianity is basically just like hitting people with a bat and saying you must comply. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Like you are loved in church anyway by the people around you who toured with you. And like I've been out for over a decade. And I still hold the people that I toured with in my experiences in very high regard and consider them friends. So it doesn't matter what the leadership told you, you are still a valid person. You're still a good person, even if you are questioning things a little bit. And that's what I would say.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any last thing that you would like to say in general to people listening to this?
Um, thank you for listening. If you are in America, call your senators. Please call your senators. Um, to appease. Um, but yeah. Um, keep on keeping on, and just anybody listening, you are valued, you are good. Like the world is literally on fire, but don't let that light inside of you die.
Absolutely. If anybody would like former Covenant player person would want to reach out to you and talk with you, would you be open to that?
Oh, that is absolutely fine. My name hasn't changed. I'm Suze Quackenbush, just as you see here on Facebook. Like, if folks want to reach out and be like, hey, I had a similar experience, and want to talk about things, that's great. Don't send hate mail to me because that would be really mean. But if people want to talk, that's that's cool. I'm cool with creating a community for folks because Conan players just kind of becomes your identity after a while. And breaking out of that is really hard.
So
So
Facebook would be the best way for people to do
Facebook would be
that?
the best way, yeah.
Okay.
Like Facebook
Cool.
Messenger, yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, doesn't get much more unique than Quackenbush.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, this has been really awesome. Thank you so much for being on the Epic Kate podcast.
Thank
And
you for being
it was
epic. Yay.
so cool to connect again after all these
I
years.
know. It's been 84 years.
Uh, the way that I end my conversations is I give hugs.
Yeah.
Wow, I am genuinely still thinking through that thing that they said about you can't get healing, how hard it is to get healing because you're either having your problem being over spiritualized or you're just dealing with very angry, unhealed people. And it's so hard to just talk about what happened. And that's just another thing I can add to my pile of regrets. I forgive myself. I'm not like wallowing or anything, but I was definitely one of those people that was like, yes, people make mistakes, but it's worth it. The work is worth it, and God redeems it all. And pushing down people's real experiences and real hurts because you don't want that to take the spotlight away from what the real work is about and the good that we thought we were doing. It's complicated. I know. But I hope that this can be one of those kind of middle grounds. Like, yeah, if people are angry, that's totally fine to be angry. That's valid. But it can also be a place of healing, of saying your side of the story, of saying what you've learned, saying where your healing has brought you, saying what you wish you would have had the chance to say to the people that knew you, that you traveled with and shared a van with for years of your life. Sometimes there's a lot of people who traveled together for more than one tour. And Covenant, we always talked about Covenant player time being like 1 year, and Covenant player time was like 7 years of regular people time. When you're always together, you really you don't have the normal office hours. It wasn't 9 to 5 or 7 to 3. It was all the time, and the struggle of being a leader of the small team and trying to keep the morale up while you were exhausted and trying to keep things going and book the calendar for the next team and to fill the holes of the current team and learning lines, rehearsing, so setting up rehearsal spaces in people's living rooms, or sheds or basements or wherever there was a little bit of space to set things up, and just going all the time. I know I need therapy, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Huge thanks again to Suze for being here. That it was so awesome to get to talk to them, and I'm so honored to get to have these powerful conversations. And it just makes me so curious. I think of all the things I wish I would have asked. I wish we would have talked more about how it was traveling around in Germany, and how they felt about the languages and the exhaustion that comes from doing all of it in a second language, especially the host homes situation. But I suppose I've rambled enough about all that. Um, if you are a fan of this show and would like to hear how you can support it and help it to continue to exist, here is how. Then you can feel free to give a gift through PayPal. And the other normal YouTube ways to support is the liking and the sharing and the commenting, and just helping the algorithm to know that this is worthwhile. If you were somebody in Covenant Players, if you knew me or didn't, and you feel like you would like to dive into this, you would like to share about your healing journey, you would like to say something to the people that knew you then about who you are now, you can definitely reach out to me. And if you'd like to share the good stories, the happy, the miracles, the wonderful, I'd love to hear that too. It's not like this is only for the hard stuff. I know there were sparkly, beautiful moments in there. I think I'll stop rambling now, and I will say thank you for listening. All the links are in the description to just connect with Suze on Facebook, or to support the show financially. And yeah, hugs!